Or dance. We're lucky to have Cascade in the building. Welcome.
All right. Good to be back.
You're in New York on your Spring Fling tour right now?
I am. Yes. Good to be back. It's spring in New York. It's beautiful. Today is amazing. It's good. It's actually like it's interesting. I caught New York right on the cusp, right as it was changing. When I landed here on Sunday, it was raining and like, I don't know, 45 degrees. It felt like it was about to snow, but I mean, I have very thin skin now that I live in LA. But yeah, and now today is like 75 and sunny and beautiful. So the timing is appropriate.
And you were telling me you've had kind of an eventful past couple of days. You came up from DC and then played a show at a school. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I just did 3 nights in DC, which was incredible. Love that town. Thank you, DC. You guys came out and supported. I appreciate that. And then, let's see. Yesterday, Monday, I played a show for Chegg and Truth over at Brooklyn Tech. It's a high school here. It's actually the largest. I learned a few things yesterday. It's the largest high school in the U.S. It's 5,700 people, which is amazing. Pretty incredible school. The theater is the 3rd largest theater in New York. Who knew? And it was a proper show. We did a Q&A and I had a show, and it was fun. It was, I mean, to see the kids that young into it, and quite a few fans there. They won this thing through social media. Their engagement. They were the most engaged on social media, and they won that, and that was the prize. So, yeah, it was a great time. A lot of fun.
And then just this morning, I remember I woke up a little earlier than I normally do today, and then I saw you went live at the crack of dawn, and you were looked like playing a SoulCycle class.
I wasn't actually playing. I was getting my SoulCycle on. That's the first time I've done that. I kind of have like wobbly legs right now. So if I pass out at the show tonight, it's cool. It's their fault. Nothing like, oop. Anyway, but yeah, we had a fun time. It was wonderful.
Now, on this tour, you've got a bunch of guys supporting you, like Sid, like Illenium, that you've worked with or you've had remixed some of your tracks before. Wondering if you could talk a little bit about whether you sort of embrace that role as a mentor for those guys. Is it fun to kind of help the guys on the come up?
It is. I think for me, it's just kind of giving back to the community. When I was a young guy, there wasn't really anybody there for me. I had a few guys that kind of helped me along the way. But I didn't have like some deep, profound relationship with some older DJ or musician that I really looked up to. I would see guys on the road and ask them for advice. It's cool that I've been able to kind of, help these guys out whenever possible. I didn't know of Illenium until he remixed Disarm You and put it up on SoundCloud, and I was like, holy cow, this is really good. It was an unofficial mix, and I was like, this is awesome. Who is this guy? Tell me the story. And then it was cool because I was like, oh, well, he grew up in San Francisco, and we kind of had that San Francisco connection. And then the next time I went to Colorado, soon after he'd put that mix up, I sat down with him, kind of hung out, and just told him how much I enjoyed his music, and we've kind of shared a connection ever since then. Yeah, it's really fun and fascinating to watch the next generation come up. I mean, I've known Sid for years and been a huge fan and supporter of his. And anytime I can help those guys out, that's the least I could do. They're extremely talented individuals, and putting them on my show only makes sense. It's just like more good music. So
makes sense.
Yeah.
Speaking of more good music, you've been pretty active on the release front recently. You released your remix of Maroon 5's song. You did a mashup of one of the Weeknd songs. What else do you have in the works coming up?
A lot of stuff. Some I can talk about, some I can't. Well, I built a new studio in Santa Monica, which you should come by, and we'll do a live broadcast from there. I moved into it about a year ago. It's kind of like a lifelong dream to, have my own studio, my own facility, and build it from the ground up. And I was able to do that. So because of the fans supporting me and all the love and affection out there, and long-term support from you guys, I appreciate it. Thank you. So I now have this beautiful studio, and honestly, probably over the last year, I've written more music than I have over the last 5 or 6 years combined. And not much has come out. A few things here and there. The Cold remix from Maroon 5 is one thing. And then I've got a Tinashe remix coming, an Imagine Dragons remix kind of a little bit down the line. The Tinashe Flame remix comes out on Friday. I know a lot of people online have been asking me about that because I've been playing it at a handful of festivals and most recently at the Spring Fling shows. So people are like, when's it coming out? I just recently found out it's coming out this Friday, so that's good news. And then I think this is one of the toughest things for me, especially in today's world, to write and produce all this music and kind of sit on it and have the patience to release it when it's appropriate. Some of it I've tested at shows here and there very quietly, not announcing that it's mine and kind of just slipping it in the mix just to see how it feels, test drive. But honestly, I have so much music and just waiting for the right time and place to put it out.
A lot of artists I know are a little bit hesitant sometimes to test drive new music because they're afraid it's just going to end up, in low quality on YouTube the next day. Has that been an issue for you at all, or?
Not as much as leaking. I feel like leak stuff happens typically by the time I'm happy with it. Because I play long sets, you know me, it's not unusual for me to play like a 4 or 5 hour set. So usually at the end of the night when people are blitzed and can't see straight or just fallen over with exhaustion, I slip in a few songs here and there that I'm like, okay, these people aren't going to know the difference. I can just ease this in here. And that's typically when I test stuff and I don't say anything. With the Tinashe remix, when I knew like, okay, cool, their team, Tinashe is ready, I can play this and test it out. Then I get on the mic and I'm like, all right, here's a new song. I'm testing it out. I just remixed the song. Check it out and let me know what you think. So I think it's just all about how you set it up, really. For me, it's been that way anyway. I mean, there's been some times over the years where some low-quality stuff has leaked out or been ripped over sets, and it's like, But I mean, honestly, if I don't shine a light on it or don't do anything, it kind of just stays there stagnant in that community of friends that know about it.
How did those remixes come together? Did you hear the original song, think that you could put your own spin on it, and then reach out, or? I'm
a huge fan of Tinashe, and I had reached out to her probably, 6 months, maybe a year ago. And I just said, hey, I love your voice. Is there any way we could work together? I don't know what you have coming up. I think a lot of times in the collaboration world, it's about timing. I feel like usually there's a lot of mutual respect out there between artists, and it's exciting when you find somebody that's actually a fan. She loved my music, and at that time it wasn't right. Fast forward, 6, 7, 8 months later, and her team was like, hey, we could use a more of a club take on this version of the song. And I'm like, oh man, I'd love to do that. Let's see what happens. And it's cool that I've met her and hung out with her and, spent a little bit of time with her and kind of got to gel a little bit. But yeah, I'm a huge fan, but well before this song came out, and it's an honor to remix it.
Now, just about a year ago, you played one of the biggest shows of your career at the Los Angeles Convention Center. And I know you've, kind of teased a potential follow-up show on social media. So any updates on that front?
Yeah, I'll set that up with the convention center. It was a big deal for me because I live in California now, and the West Coast, San Francisco, San Diego, LA, all of California. It's been so supportive of me and my music, and really kind of propped me up. They were there much before a lot of the fans around the world were, because I was there. I was based there, and I was touring and playing little dingy dive clubs, 20 years ago. Anyway, so doing the convention center thing was just kind of, it was a big moment for me. Really, the intention of it was I need to find the biggest room in Los Angeles and try and put on a show there. And they're like, okay, we have the convention center. There's never been a musical act that has come through here. There's never been a show here. It's a convention center. It's like a big concrete block. And I don't know, I went in there and visited the site, and I'm like, I think I can make this really work. And I was really fortunate enough to pair up with Insomniac and some local promoters there in California, and they really understood my vision. I think Pasquale has been very great in helping me kind of see through these crazy ideas that I have. So yeah, we pulled it off. It's 20,000 people plus, and it was an amazing night. And honestly, it was like I finished that night. Well, even before that, the tickets sold out really quickly. I mean, that's how supportive LA's been. And when they did, I was like, is there any possible way to add another night? What do we do? We ended up doing a show the night before at the Palladium, and that sold out in minutes. And it was just this incredible weekend of kind of, celebrating how far I've come and with the fans that have supported me the longest. Or for so long. I don't know the longest. Somebody's going to get mad if I say that. I don't know. There's been a lot of fans all over the world. Thank you. I love all of you. Anyway, but since that, I mean, it ended that weekend, and I was like, okay, what can we do next? I mean, there isn't a bigger room. What can we do to potentially find, another venue to do something massive like this? And I know people, on my timeline all the time are like asking me, when are you going to make this? I'm like, it's not because we're not working on this. I have people around me and everybody kind of thinking and pitching me different ideas and trying to find a location that will work. And literally we've been working on it since we finished the convention center. And I think we're really, really close. And that's one day I got extremely excited because some very good news came through, and I tweeted something like, we're really close, because some guy asked me, when are you going to follow up the convention center? I'm like, dude, I'm working tirelessly on this, and I'm really close to announcing something. It will happen soon-ish. And yeah, anyway, that's a really, really long answer, but that's all the truth. And yeah. And I don't get to say it like that on Twitter because of these short little blips, but
it's a lot more than 140 characters. Yeah.
Yeah. But it'll be massive, and it's going to be epic, and another great night of music.
And I know you recently on social media talked a little bit about and announced the return of Cascade Connect. And for those who may not be familiar with it, who are watching, I was hoping maybe you could tell the story of that and explain what that is.
Yeah, the long version. Sure. Many years ago, it's hard for me to even remember when it began. I'd have to go on social media and look it up. One of my diehard fans that was going to, she was going to so many shows, and it was great. And we made a connection because she was following me when, there was 200 people at the show. So it was very easy for her to approach me, and we became friends, Colleen Burns. And she started a group and kind of started reaching out to people and other fans, and she really created this wonderful community of people that were, that shared a love for my music and, had similar taste and passion for going to these shows and going to the concerts. And they just, it became kind of a social element and a really great group of people that lived outside of my shows, and they started connecting and going and hanging out and going to other shows, and it just became something really cool. And she was the one who put the time and energy into this. This was not under my direction. It wasn't like I had done any of this or orchestrated any of this. This was totally her doing. And she tragically passed away. And for a little while, we were kind of, we were just mourning her death, and really kind of came together as a community of people and tried to help one another through that. Because we all shared this bond of this wonderful person that had started this fan club. And just yesterday I announced that we got the Twitter and the Instagram and the Facebook handles back, and they had been handed over to us, and really kind of in the spirit of Colleen to kind of move forward and plow forward with this, because I think ultimately that's what she wanted. I mean, she was about kind of sharing the music and trying to connect with other people that loved my music. So I don't think she'd want that to stop now that she's gone. So it was a big deal yesterday, and kind of an emotional day. I think a lot of people that have followed her and followed this community of people, but they were ready, and they wanted to continue to see her vision kind of move forward. And here we are. And it was a big day yesterday, really exciting. And I don't know, I just wrote a little blurb about it and how I felt and put it up there, and now we're back. And if you want to be a part of that group, they're out there, Cascade Connect. Yeah.
Are there any, as a producer, are there any styles or sounds that are really inspiring you right now?
Quite a few. I mean, I just mentioned Millennium a few minutes ago. He's one of those guys. I'm like, okay, this is a young kid that's doing something interesting and different, and it sounds fresh to me. Sid, OK. I mean, all these guys that I've kind of called up on the tour to support me, all doing really interesting things. I don't know. And then there's out of the box people. I mean, I love what Tinashe is doing. I think the production's interesting and she kills it with her voice. Let's see, I saw Imagine Dragons recently, and I've been a fan of theirs since the beginning. For me, it was kind of like I was a huge Killers fan, and then when they came along, I was like, oh my gosh, this is kind of like a new version of that. There's remnants of that in there that I could really appreciate. I've always liked rock and roll, so or indie rock or whatever you want to call it. And recently saw them live at the Staples Center. I went to the Zed show that he did and was really blown away with their live performance.
That was the one for the ACLU? Or?
Yeah, it was a really incredible night. Tinashe played that night, Imagine Dragons, BB Rexa. I mean, it just went on and on. I mean, the list of people that performed that night went on. And I was trying to be a part of it, but I was like, I'm not sure if I'm going to be here or not. My schedule is like a living, evolving thing from day to day, so I'm not very responsible like that. You would think I'm really planned and have it all figured out. I don't. Just some things, but not my schedule. Right.
Speaking of having a busy schedule, I saw you made a lovely Mother's Day post to your wife, Naomi, who's in the audience.
Yes. Hey, Naomi.
How do you sort of balance your time as a parent and keeping up with sort of the constant touring like climate of being a DJ?
I think this is a great question, and I think a lot of touring musicians out there want to know about that. I think from young guys that always come to me, you know, they're not like, oh, how did you make this song, or where do you write best, or what do you use in the studio? I get a lot of that too, but typically the first question is how hard is it to be on the road, and how do you balance that with your everyday life? Like, how do you reconcile these things? And there's not really an easy answer. I think it's difficult. It's hard. We work at it a lot. I think, you know, that when I tell young kids that want to get into music, I'm like, look, man, this is, there's some serious sacrifices that have to be made. I've been touring for over 15 years, and when I say that, I'm gone the majority of the year, 9-10 months out of the year, I'm on the road. And I mean, I've missed holidays, anniversaries, birthdays, you name it, because it's like, hey man, in Australia in December, it's warm and it's festival season. I've played Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. I've played all these holidays, and no regrets. I love that, and I'm doing what I love. And I think for me, it was an easy decision to, kind of navigate that. Like, this is what I love doing, and I want to do this. So I didn't feel like it was a sacrifice, but certainly those people around me were making many sacrifices so that I could live my dream. And Naomi being that primary person, and that's why I made that post. She's had to do and live so much of her life without me, or coming in and out of it. But we've, I think a lot of people are like, oh, you guys make it look so easy. I'm like, listen, nothing's easy. It's a lot of work. But what we do is we just put the important things first. I mean, family's first. I mean, as much as I love my job, of course, it takes a back seat to my wife and children. And, but a lot of time and effort's put into scheduling and trying to figure the best way to navigate that and make sure that there's enough time for me to, continue to be a great dad and a great husband.
Makes sense. I think we're going to open up the floor to fan questions now, because I'm sure there are quite a few.
So the comments are blowing up with a lot of questions about another Redux tour or Redux-style sets. Anything on that?
Redux, redo. I don't know, dude. You're a writer. Do you have a way of saying?
I always called it redo.
Redo. I say redo, but I'm like one of those guys, like Madonna when she's talking and then she goes to London and all of a sudden she has an accent and you're like, oh my God. gosh, you just kind of like modes. That's kind of how if I'm in a group of people and I'm like, redo was amazing. And they're like, oh, I love Redux. I'm like, yeah, Redux was awesome. So
you're not about to correct them when they're, yeah.
No, I don't say it that way, dude. I don't offend it. So, when's the next tour? I don't know. I think for, the last year and a half, maybe even, I forget when the last proper Redux tour was. See, Redux, now I've just slipped right into there. I think it was a year and a half, maybe even 2 years ago. And then since then, I've kind of just been doing these small one-offs. I think I do it where it makes sense. Like if I'm playing a large festival and the festival ends at 10 or 11 o'clock, which is the case in a lot of cities, I'm like, oh man, I can go to a club like at Shaky Beats in Atlanta last weekend or the weekend before. It just made sense. I was like, oh wow, I can fit an intimate club gig in here. I think, I don't know, I really, really want to do one this year. I really want to make that happen, and I'm trying to figure that out. So hopefully later in the year I'll be able to figure something like that out. But until then, it's just kind of fitting it in where it makes sense. Like in DC, I went a day early, and on Thursday, so I did 3 shows there. Thursday was a redo show, and then Friday and Saturday at Echo Stage. But I mean, it was just... Thursday was insane, man. It was like the most incredible venue. And people are like, well, what do you prefer? Do you prefer a redo show or playing like these big arenas or festivals, or, what's your favorite? And I'm like, it's impossible for me to pick. They're two different art forms, really. And I think they satisfy 2 different things. I love playing festivals. I love playing these massive shows. I mean, Hammerstein tonight is going to be incredible. It'll be like this sweat-drenched, massive fist pumping, energy driven night with cryo and confetti and all the stuff that comes with that. And I think there's something wonderful about that. And I mean, I think that's why electronic music has been able to break out, because of those energy filled shows. But I mean, I came up playing small clubs. So it's like I can't totally forget my past, and I find it extremely satisfying to go in and be able to just kind of play what I'm listening to and play what's in my heart and really just kind of connect and freestyle and like not have any cares of like, oh, do I need to do this or do I need to do that or what's happening with the staging? Like, there's just no cares, man. I just go into a club and like, I've got a couple thousand records on this SD card. I'm going to like flip through this and like weave this tapestry in the night and like see what happens. And some magical moments have happened with that as well, I always feel like it's a shame because I can't share with more people. There's only 500 people in the room and we're all like, but I think but then that's the spirit of the bigger show. Like, okay, how can we take that and move it into a much bigger room?
Makes sense. Do we have some other fan questions?
More from you. Tweet away.
Last one we got is some advice for upcoming producers and DJs.
Advice for guys getting into the business or trying to get into the business. My advice to you is discover in this business what you really like. What is it? If you're a producer, are you a better songwriter? Are you a better melody guy? Are you an incredible musician? Are you more of an engineer? I think start with what your strongest suit is and really master that craft. If you're an incredible musician, you're a multi-instrumentalist, and you're like, man, I can sit down and play anything, and I have all these ideas, I think in the beginning it would probably be best to collaborate with somebody who's an incredible engineer. And it's like, oh my gosh, there might be some magic between the two of you that works there. Have somebody supplement the parts of you that aren't as strong. And together you might be able to make magic. Not only that, you'll be able to look and learn from this person. I think this idea of we can do it all is wonderful, and I think that's part of what makes electronic music great, that it's so accessible and the entry level has become so low. But in saying that, I mean, if you want to make impact and make something great, it's also cool to learn from people around you. It's like you don't have to put these songs out. Maybe they only live on your hard drive. Maybe it's something you're just giving to your dad on a USB drive. I don't know. But I think every time you go in and you create and produce and spend time, trying to master your craft, you just get that much better and you learn a new tip or trick. And doing that with more people that have skills outside of yours just makes that process go faster. So I think being honest with yourself and finding out where your strengths lie, and then really trying to, go full force into that zone.
It's wise words. All right, I think that wraps it for now. Catch Cascade at the Hammerstein Ballroom tonight and tomorrow night as well.
Tonight and tomorrow night.
All right.
Yeah.
Go twice.
Yeah, there it is. A handful of tickets left for tomorrow night. So if you're in New York and you're like, I want to see that guy, come hang out. We'll see you on Wednesday.
All right. Thanks again for coming in. Always a
Thanks for
pleasure.
having me. Thank you.